Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to show you something, and I forgot to change my sound because I'm just not all that together sometimes. So bear with me while I change the sound so that you can hear it, because otherwise, what good is that? Thank you for your patience. I've got something that we want to show you, so hang on 2 seconds, and we'll be there. I think we're there. Let's see. And we are. Okay, so I'm going to make this full screen. And I'm going to play it now. Let me actually mute myself so that you don't hear me doing something. Okay, so you saw that. That is a video from a friend of NPC, and I want to welcome my friend at NPC. Hello.
Many meows, folks. Sabbat shalom.
That video definitely pointed to a lot of movies that we're seeing, coming out with, I think, a lot of information in the past and now about what could be coming. But real funny, I want to mention to you before you get started that just today I read in some Catholic thing, that because my parents are Catholic, this magazine they get called The Harvest, and it was debunking myths. Thank you, Catholic Church. And the myths it was debunking was the fact that that this is not going to be a transhumanism project, that we don't have to worry about that, that this isn't going to change our DNA, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh,
We're
thanks,
getting ahead of it.
thanks, Catholic Church, for debunking what this, that is safe, even though it hasn't been, tested for very long. It's plenty safe and nothing to worry about. And they just debunked all these myths for us. So I just wanted to let you know, Catholic Church says it's safe. Must be.
So, is the universal basic income going to be the wages paid for being in the movie titled Apocalypse 2020?
Yeah,
Is that what
probably.
it's really about? You're just getting paid for being
Yeah.
part of it?
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem like it's a movie sometimes, and it does parallel a lot of what we're seeing. But again, I think that's because we have to remind ourselves that these folks are occultists, and part of I think the way it works is you have to kind of honor
Hey,
your praise intelligence a little bit
sorry, my
by
cat is
cluing
attacking
in.
me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Keep going though.
hey man, I
If you hear me,
blessings that you have a cat.
if you hear me shout out something, that's why. So,
So anyway, let's let the cat out of the bag here and talk about.
meow.
So yeah, thanks Lane. Um, Shout out to Lane, the awesome videographer.
Is Lane
But
here?
I
Is
also,
Lane? Everybody loves Lane.
that's a fair assumption, I would venture to say.
Okay.
But anyway, I just wanted to also cover a link they dropped in the Discord earlier because it's very relevant. They said yes. Um, so I will go ahead and share my screen here, and then I'll read this link that Lane also shared that dropped today. It's talking about they're voting on who's going to be receiving it first, this vaccine. And I hadn't seen that yet, so I wanted to go ahead and share that. Now, it's the only news-related link I have, and then the rest is some scripture. So let me go ahead and get the screen share going, and then I'll start dropping links. There it is. And I also have the chat up.
Me
So
too.
I'll go ahead and try to negotiate these links. So Lane inspired me a lot because I wanted to read about Corinthians and the gifts too. Well, this is more about charity here, actually. Is it shared yet?
It is. Yeah. I see what you see.
All right, cool. But anyway, I wanted to start with this here. So let me get that. Yeah, I'm not as tired as I was last week. So and I didn't even have to make coffee for this one. So that should be
Yay.
all right. All right, so that's the link we're going to be on first. And so this is a very, very short one, so I'll go ahead and just read it. It is fake news after all. I let it be in their own words. All right, so this is about the CDC. Advisors to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will vote Tuesday on the very first people to get the coronavirus vaccine once one gets emergency authorization, which, of course, they're discussing that right now. The CDC's Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices has scheduled an emergency meeting for Tuesday to discuss allocation of COVID-19 vaccines, according to the document obtained by CNN. And if you recall the video we showed last week, was about, I think it was General Perna, is that his name?
Yeah.
Um, he was discussing how within 24 hours they'll have it, all over America. Well, that wasn't obviously they're not going to do, uh, everybody in 24 hours. They mean they're going to distribute it. So this portion right here is, within authorization, they're going to distribute it then within 24 hours, and it's going to begin in every state simultaneously within 24 hours is what I think what they mean by that, at a rate of 200,000 a day. But I still think that's crazy. And actually,
I look forward to seeing how many people actually show up to get it, which I don't think will be as many as they think.
well, and that's what this voting stuff here is about. But before I went too far, I wanted to mention this was playing earlier, and this was talking about Germany. They're doing the same thing we're doing here, and the statistic they gave was doing a person every 2 minutes, I think, is the rate they were going for. So,
oh, jeez.
All right. So members of the committee will discuss who will be in the first group and clinical considerations for the group. Draft recommendations have suggested that healthcare workers should be in the 1A vaccine allocation group. That is a phrase that I thought might be worth looking into because I don't know what these distinctions are yet. Other possible members of the group, people most likely to catch, spread, and develop severe disease from the virus, such as nursing home
yeah, let's give it
residents.
to them first, because they're dying first anyway.
The Como guy already made a stink over that. The advisors will also discuss how to monitor safety after allocation of the vaccine according to the document. So the document, of course, we know how they like to say things. So I don't know what document they're referring to. And then this is the categorization. So I don't know how many of these there are, but this will likely help give us a time frame for what they're looking at as far as a schedule, because there are 2 of them. I did see an interview with Bill Gates without his handler. And
his wife?
Yeah, well, if you want to call her that.
His
the strong arm.
Male wife.
Snap his straw neck. So anyway, he was all out of sorts because there happened to be a reporter actually asking him questions about the efficacy of the vaccine and so on and so forth. And he was kind of boxed into a corner, and he started touching his face and adjusting his glasses and, rearranging. You could tell he was getting fidgety, She must be calming. He must be more afraid of her than anything else. So basically, it was just kind of nice to see him squirm there because he was forced to be pinned down and ask questions about how do we know this is really going to work? This is kind of being rushed out, et cetera, et cetera. And I was kind of shocked, actually, it was even happening on live television like that. But so that's an interview that I couldn't find, but if anybody can find it, I think it might have been it was something I didn't expect. It was like MSNBC or maybe it was Fox or something like that. But he was without his wife, and it was like this past week or two. So if anybody can find that one, that's a really good one to watch. But yeah, so this Operation Warp Speed stuff is really fast tracking this. And in normal cases with the vaccine, it would take a couple years to approve a quote vaccine. So the fact that it's skipping all these different steps because there's no quote virus in the vaccine, they can fast track it. And then, of course, a reminder that they removed the liability from the manufacturers. So, that means AstraZeneca, Moderna, and I think there's another one that is in the news. They're all going to be exempt from any vaccine injury that may result. So,
that was another myth that the Catholics said that they are not exempt from that kind of stuff. The Catholic.
But that's the point. Normally they wouldn't be. Of course, it's ridiculous like anybody could fight them in court anyway. But they're being given an exemption by the Operation Warp
Oh,
Speed
oh, even
legislation.
above and beyond their normal exemption.
Yeah, that's what's so shocking about this. So it's not only that, but Moderna. Remember, they're not even known for having produced a vaccine before.
Well,
So
yeah,
anyway,
not one that they've been that they've chosen to use in public. They've been in lots of trouble for trying to make vaccines that nobody wants
well,
to
yeah,
accept.
I don't even want to use the word vaccine anymore because it's not. That's a deceptive word in at this point because they're not doing it the traditional way.
Right.
And
It's just some
anyway,
kind
I
of
didn't want to go ever
lethal
long about
injection.
the vaccine stuff, but it was in that video, and it made me think, like it is a lot like snake fangs,
Mm-hmm.
literally changing DNA, and all the word study I've been doing, like on the word enza, derived from ent, which is giant. I mean, we're literally being assaulted by the giant DNA, as it were, already. And then here they come with this vaccine. So there was a point here in, let's see, is it Revelation? Yeah. It talks about a double portion. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill her double." So the reason I wanted to point that out is because Bill Gates did mention how this is a 2-dose vaccine, and I just couldn't help myself. I was like, oh man, that is the double portion it's talking about in Revelation. I think you're receiving double the plagues. So I don't know if it might be linked to some type of solar flare activity or whatever, but somehow, some way, they're gonna get a double heaping of plagues when they take this. And so they're making the temple desolate, right? It's the abomination of desolation. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the vineyard and the parable of the fig, and then I'll touch on this again in Luke, and then a little bit in Ezekiel, because again, another great verse that Lane shared and on the video, and then hop into Revelation 18, and then finish it off with some good stuff, right? Corinthians and Ephesians with the armor of God, and then a little bit of 1 Peter. So let me drop this link. The reason I'm wanting to review is because I've been dealing with a lot of brush, burning trees and things like that. And that's kind of the time of year that you'd be doing a lot of that thing anyway. And if you recall, the feast days are all in line with the seasons and the harvests. And, so I'm kind of wrapping everything up in a sense and explaining how as we approach the winter, we'll be talking more about Hanukkah. And I really want to focus, as we go toward that, I'll be focusing a lot on the menorah and the other symbols in the temple and so on and so forth. Because this dark winter scenario, as it were, is basically kind of what Elijah faced. And so when we get in over here to 1 Kings, we're going to find out what he went through going up against Jezebel. And she's who tried to usurp the vineyard, right? She was planting seeds in her husband's ear. Hey, that's a really nice vineyard. You're the king. Shouldn't you have it? And plotted to have his, vassal killed so he could have the vineyard. And so that's the thing. This seductress type spirit, it's not saying women are bad or anything like that. It's just we've got to look at this, this demon is doing and how it's getting done what it wants to do, and how it possesses things in a material sense, and it has no thought of spirituality, except in the sense that they're possessed. So let's hop in over here. I didn't want to preface too much here, but that's why we're going to be getting into 1 Kings. Because, again, I wanted to give some hope, and Elijah did some great feats here. So let's preface things with Matthew 20. Now, this is the parable of the vineyard again. I know we've covered this maybe not long ago, but I just wanted to do this again. So we'll start off with verse 1 of chapter 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is a householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers in his vineyard. Now remember, he pays them a penny, right? And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And that was the agreed upon wage, right? And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. So when people talk about there being multiple raptures, right? Again, like Lane mentioned in the video description. I know I'm bragging on you a lot, but I loved it. So there's there's the first fruits rapture because of remember the Yom Teruah. It's when everything's finishing and we're bringing everything in. And there's 3 feast days that are required. Day of Atonement, which is Yom Kippur, that was required. Then Passover was required, and Shavuot was required. Those were the 3, which that's the cross, essentially. Your 2 arms and your top of your cross are your 3 required feast days. And then on the others, just kind of fill them in, which is really how it helps to explain how Jesus fulfilled these feast day sacrifice requirements, because we no longer have to do the sacrifice. It's so awesome. Sorry, I get a little carried away with myself sometimes. All right, so verse I think we're on 4. And said, and he saw them standing idle in the marketplace, and he said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. Again, he went out about the 6th and 9th hour and did likewise. So he's went out at 3, which they say, when have you ever heard about the time they say that Christ died on the cross?
3 in the afternoon?
Yeah, right. So he went out the 3rd hour and gathered some people. He went out the 6th hour and then the 9th hour. 3, 6, 9. I mean, that's that Tesla math right there,
Right.
And did likewise. And then he went out again. So this is the late hour. He went out the 11th hour, right before noon, and found others standing idle, and said unto them, Why stand ye here all day idle? Remember, there's the idle shepherd, right? The person that's not doing faith without works is dead, right? So you can have faith in God and just be idle, saying, oh, well, I didn't sin today, so I'm good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not good enough. And it's where we have to be going out into the world and finding the sheep, right? Wherever they might be, and feeding them, whether it be milk or bread, right? And taking care of our brethren, right? We have to be a laborer in the vineyard, right? Sowing seed, gathering the fruit. And they say unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He said unto them, Go ye into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that ye shall receive. So when even was come, evening, the Lord of the vineyard said unto his steward, Call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from last unto first. In verse 9. And when they came, there were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more, and they likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they murmured against the good man of the house, who is also the strong man of the house, able to bind, saying, These last have wrought 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst thou agree with me for a penny? Take that thine is, and go thy way. I will give unto this last even as unto thee. So I'm going to give you everything, even Stephen. Everybody's getting the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 15. Is it not lawful for me to do what I will with mine own? Is thine eye evil because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. And that's the thing. Many are called, right? Those could be everybody that just has faith. But the few that are chosen are those who act on that faith and do faith with the works, with the Holy Spirit guiding them. And verse 17, and Jesus going up to Jerusalem took the 12 disciples apart in the way and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death. So they're always looking for a way for the law to condemn him, right? The persecuting attorney, the Satan, and then you got Jesus as your defense attorney, right? All right, so, verse 19, and shall deliver him into the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. So we see he started out going out in the third hour. Again, we have a third day of resurrection. And he died at 3. Verse 20, then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? I'm going to pull my screen closer. Sorry. What wilt thou? She said unto him, Grant that these my 2 sons may sit, the one on the right hand and the other on the left, in thy kingdom. But Jesus answered and said, Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They say unto him, We are able. Verse 23, and he said unto him, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with, but to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father. So separating the sheep from the goats, right and the left hand, in other words, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, verse 24. And when the 10 heard it, and they were moved with indignation against the 2 brethren. But Jesus called them unto him and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. We have to remind ourselves that the races, all the different people, had Nephilim or angels attached to them, right? So we're seeing these words here like dominion and authority. This is talking about how the time of the Gentiles, as it were, right? But it shall not be so among you, but whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister, and whomsoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. This is about the stone of salvation. And as they departed from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, 2 blind men sitting by the wayside, when they heard that Jesus passed by, cried out, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. Again, Isaiah 11 talks about the root of David as well. Verse 31, and the multitude rebuked them because they should hold their peace, but they cried the more, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. And Jesus stood still and called them and said, What will ye that I should do unto you? They said unto him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. So Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. That's very profound. It reminds me of also Matthew, I think it is, where it says, if thine eye be single, thy whole body be full of light. You know, what eyes did he open? How were they blind? Were they third eye blind? You know, did they not have their temple built? Were they thinking only materially? It's just, it makes you wonder. Do you have any comments on this?
No, just unrelated. I need to try to remember to do a raffle before we're done.
Oh, you can go ahead and do it then.
Okay, I could do it real quick. And then Ben's wanted me to show you something.
Yeah, he sent me a message, but I couldn't see what it was.
Let me go into the Discord anyway, because I need to. Let's see.
And I'm going to go ahead and share this with the chat. We'll be doing Mark 13 next.
I'm going to send this to you. And you can pull it up in a second if you want to. Well, I'm going to do this raffle first, though. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. As you may know, these raffles are to get gold and silver into your hands. And this time it is gold, in fact. And congratulations, NPC, on winning Two-Face.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that I finally won that, because I really did want it.
Yeah, I was going to
give it as a gift.
I was going to say, it was up for a minute, and I was like, do you not want spots on this, man? I mean, come on. So this...
Well, like I said, I had some issues with the PayPal stuff. I didn't know that you switched to BitCash or whatever it's called.
Cash App. I had to. PayPal just kicked me off a while back. Not quite a year ago. I guess it was only in February. All right, but this was the gold. I was going through my stacks, and I found that I still had 7 $1 gold backs. I mean, I have more than that, but I mean, that were extra. And one of these $10 gold backs, and I was like, oh, forgot I had these. I'll raffle. So here's the $10 one, and we've got Liana and Marie, Doc Michael, Patricia, and Scott, and Rock Prime. So there's actually quite a few in this raffle. And so if you're not familiar, I do these raffles not for my own monetary gain, but so that you guys can get gold and silver in your hands. Like I said, in this case, gold, because only 2% of people in America even own or buy gold and silver. So you'll become one of the 2% of the wealthiest people in the world if you get this. So you might as well get in on the raffles. I already dropped a link for Discord. I'll drop one more. But here we go, generating result. And it's number 2, which is Marie. So she's going to be very pleased.
Woo-hoo.
Woo, Marie! I got to make a note of that before I forget, because I've almost sent some things to the wrong people before. It may have happened once. I don't know. No one ever told me if I did, and no one ever got mad. But it's still not a good way to handle your business. So I always like to write it down right away. So Marie, congratulations. And I will put up another one either tonight or tomorrow. I have more gold backs. It turns out I forgot I had. So that's pretty fun. And then back to, I'm going to send an invite real quick to everybody in the chat. This invite is only good for 24 hours. There we go. And so then we've got this image that Ben's sent. I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that image, or if you know what it's about.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting to mention all this astrological stuff. In fact, I'll probably just incorporate that into next week's show. I have a lot of things to talk about in that
the image
regard. For instance,
that he sent.
Well, it just made me remember a lot of other stuff. For instance, like Trump's birthday ties in a lot with Saturn. So the blood moon, there was a blood moon, like, during his birth, and so on and so forth. So I'll review a lot of that stuff next week too, and probably bring this back up again, because there is another eclipse next month.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll go ahead and read this though, yeah, because it does mention this stuff. I'm not sure what verse this is exactly, but it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. That might be Joel. Anyway, this particular eclipse is said to be between this one, which is April 8th, 2024, and August 21st, 2017, which are both the two eclipses that make an X over the United States. There's one small town where they actually intersect, by the way.
What is that
now,
town?
I'm not real sure, to be honest.
Okay, I thought maybe you had that.
Might have shown it. I'm not real certain. If anybody knows, they can tell us. But anyway, this swath right here, and then so it's going to be some town right here in the Midwest. That's where the two cross. It's like somewhere in Iowa or something like that. But anyway, the one next month is actually going to be just visible in is that South America? Actually, yeah, South America. The tip of South America right here. Maybe even a little bit in Africa. But anyway, so these are something to pay attention to. And so as we advance toward Hanukkah, and we'll be focusing on the menorah, I'm going to be talking about these eclipses, both sun and moon, quite a bit, because each of them do represent, like we were talking about last week, the almond blossoms on each of the nodes. There would be these almond blossoms, and those are all the different eclipses. So it helps us measure time in Revelation in terms of the bowls and the seals and things like that, which they seem to be pretty much right on time. So anyway, yeah, we'll talk about that at length maybe more next week. And let me see what else he said here just to make sure. Moon phases for December. Yeah, the new moon starts the same. Well, that's how they have the eclipse. So, yeah. And then the very next sickle, like the light of the moon, is your new month. And December 21st is the first quarter. And this in 2020, the peak of the shower almost coincides with the new moon, providing dark skies all night long. Watch the usual reliable prolific Geminid meteor shower from mid-evening December 13th until the dawn of December 14th, with absolutely no moonlight to ruin the show. Oh, I see. So the moon phase here is a reference to it being a dark sky, so you can get a really nice
dark
view.
winter.
Right? Which, thank you again, Benz, because you reminded me about something else that had I did wait till next week to mention this, it wouldn't be quite as relevant. But we just passed the date of the peak for the Monticeros unicorn constellation. Has a meteor shower going through it also. And the peak for that was this past week. In fact, the Pleiadian constellation itself was at the highest point in the sky during this time also. And that's fairly regular, but at the same time, it's just interesting to note where these meteor showers do occur at in the sky.
You had a question?
Unicorn is a wild ox, by the way, in the Bible. Yeah,
Maybe.
Sure. What's the question?
I think unicorns existed, though. It sounds like they like to use their blood for stuff, adrenochrome type of stuff, to live longer and things like that. Jeffrey.
That's the reference.
Jeffrey says, aren't the planets supposed to line up in December 21st?
Yeah, there'll be the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction, which Saturn is on a really long, I think a 30-year orbit. So, it's very rare to have your conjunctions with that planet because it's just so long. So it is noteworthy, yes. In fact, some folks even suspect that maybe Saturn and Jupiter might carry some planets through, or some debris and asteroids through the Oort cloud, and they might come streaking through the sky. And that might happen on a fairly routine basis. So, maybe it's not this Nibiru thing after all. It could just be our own terrestrial planets, so to speak, or nearby neighborhood planets, rather. Um, so it's highly likely. Now, I don't subscribe to the belief that the planets are the same thing as God, of course, because I think God made the planets, but the motif of that particular conjunction does convey the message of, well, we have Pluto also being there, by the way. It's just much, much smaller. So basically, I see it as like your four horsemen, so to speak, but it is the motif of the father and the son. So you'd have who was considered Kronos, and then Zeus, who overthrew him. But again, what's really interesting is the fact that when the mother was giving Kronos the children to eat, because he was eating the children, she gave him a stone in place of Zeus. And then when he was grown, he was able to overthrow him or whatever. So, and then that starts the tradition of always not liking the giants. So it is kind of strange. You always see these weird themes of not liking the giants and cleansing the land of them, because then afterwards, you get into Orion, which is right where the unicorn constellation is, right? And Orion was a giant himself, or at least half giant. And Artemis, which was Zeus's daughter, had taken a liking to him because he was a hunter, and so was she. And then, of course, so then Apollo and Zeus conspired against him to have him slain. So anyway, it's fun to talk about that stuff, but the stories there's stories for reasons. I think that they herald cataclysms.
We have to set the record straight for Joffrey here. Joffrey is now finally telling us that his name is not pronounced Joffrey, it's Jeffrey.
Well, okay.
He's been saying it for about.
Maybe it's because of maybe we've watched too much Game of Thrones and we just wanted to say it that way.
I've been saying Jeffrey, but apparently he says that just tonight I said Joffrey, so I must have said Joffrey. So there we go. It is officially Jeffrey, but we can call him Joffrey to probably irritate him or something if we want to.
I'll do the best I can to remember.
Okay.
But
it's
and right
official.
now you got.
It should be on the trivia, to be honest.
What is
how do you pronounce his name?
But that's going to culminate on the 21st, I think. And you can see it in the sky right now. And so, and I've seen a lot of activity in the sky. I would encourage everybody to please spend time outside.
Looking up.
There's a lot of weird stuff in the sky right now.
I'm getting a lot of spray still. We get a lot of chemtrails around here in Billings, Montana.
Yeah, I see a lot of weird crafts and things that shouldn't be moving the way they are. It's really bizarre.
Doc Michael and I said the same thing. We saw an airplane look like it wasn't going anywhere. It just looked like it was hovering in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
It really didn't. I mean, you could say
creepy, right?
Angle and all this stuff, but how many airplanes have you seen driving, standing still? All the time you see airplanes. And both of us thought this looked odd. It just looked like it was hovering and not moving anywhere. Wasn't getting smaller, wasn't getting bigger.
One of the first ones I've ever seen is just hovering in the air. Yeah. But I've not seen anything like that in a long time. I do see a lot of what I think might be drones that'll fly and then stop, and then fly and then stop. And I could only assume they're taking photos or something. I don't know what else they could be
doing.
Right.
This was definitely an airplane. It just didn't look like it was moving.
What's weird to me is I don't ever see those things during the day. But at nighttime, you can spot them like that. I mean, I have seen some weird things during the daytime too. But you'd think if there are that many of them, you should be able to spot them in the daytime too. But I don't know. It's really bizarre. Anyway, I digress.
So do I. But I wanted to bring it up because you asked, and Doc Michael and I went to an event for the 7K medals, and that's when we saw that, and we're both sitting there going, that just doesn't look right. Doesn't look normal. So anyway, sorry, I digress too. So go on.
But it's interesting to bring those things up about the planets because we do have several in the sky that hold scythes, and in Revelation it does talk about thrusting the scythe into the earth and harvesting the grapes of the earth, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why we're studying these parables about the vineyard and such. It really does tell the story in the sky too. So I think it's worthwhile to consider those things. Boots, I think, is one of the guys that held a scythe. He has a spear and a scythe, and he's the companion of Hercules, which is another demigod type figure. But that's who he's paired up with. Anyway. And there's several coronas, like
Right.
the laurels. There's like 2 or 3 of those I've discovered at this point.
The
So
Corona Borealis is like near Orion, right?
well, there's one there, yeah, and then there's another one in there around Ophiuchus, and then yet another. I can't remember. Maybe around Sagittarius, perhaps. So
That's
quite
my
a few.
sign.
Oh yeah, forgot. And so you'd use a scythe to like harvest mistletoe out of the tree, and it wasn't allowed to touch the ground. It's always traditionally a scythe, like a hand scythe, is used to gather something to harvest in a more intimate way. It's not like the big scythe so much. It was like a hand scythe that they're usually depicted with. Anyway, let me get on here with Mark 13. Now, I think I shared this already, but let me go ahead and drop that again since that took so long to. All right, now remember, this is going to highlight what we kind of already started here with the parable of the vineyard. And so Mark 13 is talking about basically the parable of the fig, but from a different perspective other than Matthew 24:32. So Mark 13, verse 1, and as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples said unto him, Master, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here? And Jesus answering said unto him, Seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be one, not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. This is referencing what happens in 70 AD with the Antiochus Epiphanes. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? And Jesus, answering them, began to say, Take heed lest any man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. Again, so we're hearing all this stuff, but we shouldn't be alarmed, right? Because it's part of the plan, right?
The plan.
Verse 8. Yeah, I hate to be seen cliche, but trust the plan, right? For nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. So in Masonic Lodge, the time of sorrows begins right after Shavuot. So the solstice, June 21st, would be when your time of sorrows begins. So remember, he references a departure in winter. Pray that your departure not be in winter, right? So these sorrows herald as we approach winter, which are also our feast days, begin in typically September and October. And then through November and December, they're gearing up for Hanukkah, which is a dedication of the temple and a rededication of the temple. And again, a dedication is like when you name your child, you're saying we're going to devote this child to whatever, and then name it that. And then Shavuot, on the other hand, would be like when that spirit descends onto, the people. And then tabernacles is when we tabernacle with the Spirit, right? So that's a little bit of background on the time of sorrows. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, tribunals, and in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. And the gospel must first be published among all nations. We've heard this also as the four corners, right, or the four winds. But when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what you shall speak, neither do ye premeditate, but whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye, for it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost. We're going to kind of learn about that here when we say, though I speak with tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. So he's talking about one of these gifts being like the Spirit can speak for you. That's what we're going to be seeing here with this. Now there's another spot where it talks about, 10 days, being in prison up to 10 days or something like that. I'm not sure which chapter or book that's in. But that's what this is talking about. Okay, and so now on to verse 12. Now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son, and the child shall rise up against their parents and shall cause them to be put to death. Again, this is like the reference to there shall be 5 in a house, 2 against 3, 3 against 2.
Father against son,
people ratting
mother
on each
against
other,
daughter, yeah.
COVID violations or whatever it might be. That's what this is kind of referencing, in my opinion. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. I heard Leland did a really great message on this, and some of the language that was being used in the Greek is talking about this being a race of some sort, which I thought was kind of interesting because the way the corona, the Stephanos crown victory, was given to those people that did these marathons and races, right? So I kind of felt that was an interesting thing to note. I just wanted to make that reference. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let him that be in Judea flee to the mountains. This is again what's emphasized by the feast day of the tabernacles, when they were expected to leave the cities, go into the mountains, and tabernacle, and actually build your shelter out of trees, different species of trees, right? And so again, a reference to these fruiting bodies and how we ourselves are much like trees. And it was a reminder, hey, you depend on me for everything, not the cities. And so it was a way to kind of remind them of that. And it was a drill, really. If the people keep doing it over and over and over and over, then the time in the future when Jesus is talking about right here, he's talking about all this anyway, and he's saying, look, folks, this is going to happen, but if you were already keeping tabernacles, or you were familiar with the, like up here, where he's talking about no stone will be on top of another, Antiochus Epiphanes coming and destroying everything. Those are the kinds of things we're watching for now, and that's the kind of thing that happened in the winter. So that's why we're talking about this right now. I just want to offer some context real quick.
Okay.
In the feast days. And let him that is on the housetop not go into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. And let him that is in the field not turn back again to take up his garment. But woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, those who are on milk, right? Or recently born again, perhaps, or even young, however you want to interpret that. And pray ye that your flight not be in the winter, So again, why I wanted to emphasize this, because that's the season he's pointing to. For in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created until this time, neither shall be. So he's saying it's going to be I mean, you've got to realize they've been through a lot, had a lot of things they could reference, and he's saying this is going to be unlike anything ever. It's because it'll be a worldwide deal. And it says, and except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened those days. So I think this is a kind of a reference to like the 144,000 or the remnant, people make the rapture, whatever you want to call it, the harvest. And then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, believe him not. For false Christs and false prophets shall rise, and shall show things and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. The word elect here is important because of how voting occurs, with the black cube representing a vote of no, and then the smooth stone being a vote of yes, or in the affirmative. But take ye heed, behold, I have foretold you all things. Verse 24. But in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. That's the one Ben's just shared. And the stars shall fall, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Verse 27. And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, and from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. So right here we're seeing again the gospel being preached all over. He makes the reference to four winds, and then we see the elect is mentioned, I think, 3 times in this so far. And so verse 28, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When her branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is near. Summer is Shavuot, June 21st, right? It's when the time of sorrows begins. Mm-hmm. So ye in like manner, when ye shall see these things come to pass, know that it is nigh, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Heaven and earth shall not pass away, but my words shall pass away, rather, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Because, as we've explained before, the Galilean wedding, right?
Yes.
Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. I think it ended up being midnight in this case with the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch thee therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning. The cock crowed, for Peter before the crucifixion? Lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. So sleeping here is almost being like idle, in the idle laborer, just standing there, catch you sleeping, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we'll do Luke now real quick here. And, what happened? Why is it? There we go. And then...
Wait, everybody loves Lane says don't take a shower at midnight. Why? Why can't you take... I mean, isn't God bigger than these things? But what happens if you take a shower at midnight?
Oh, she might be joking. Maybe it's like, just in case that's when he shows up.
Oh,
That way you're
okay.
not caught off guard.
Okay.
Yeah, because and you remember, because we're talking about midnight here, but then also the times are the 3, 6, 9, and then the 11th hour. So midnight is the time that you're supposed to be returning. We just don't know when that actually is. It's just a
That's
metaphor of
right.
sorts.
We're just
But in
supposed to,
other
like
words,
you brought up the Galilean wedding, and we should. I can't show it because it's an hour long, but I could re-upload it on my own channel. It's so worth watching the whole hour. Such a good video. It really explains what why Jesus and what he says makes so much sense, and why when he describes like when he'll be back, but you won't know, and all these other things. I can't possibly explain it. The video was an hour long, but just really explains thoroughly why those people would know what Jesus was talking about and how much sense it would have made to them because of the Galilean wedding tradition.
well, and that's exactly how I feel about the feast days too. There's a lot of hidden wisdom in these things, and if we just really want to know God, we gotta get into the traditions of, because if we just stay with the Babylonian ways, we're not going to learn anything. Um, that's why we got to come out of her, my people, right?
That's right.
And get back to the old ways, as it were, because that's how it's going to be. It's how it's already in heaven.
Right. That's
Um,
why we talk about the kingdom of heaven on earth, not waiting till heaven and bringing that kingdom here now. If it's already that way in heaven, there's a way to bring that here and understand the kingdom. It's not just knowing Jesus. It's not just saying I'm forgiven, but it's actually understanding that peace and joy that is brought to us because of the forgiveness and the love, and then to know that we're on a commission for Jesus as well. That.
yeah, labor,
hmm So anyway, go on.
and then we should take uh, joy in serving and not be slighted at those who come at the 11th hour and also get the gift of salvation. We should rejoice. Hey, we saved more, right? As
Right.
the some of the folks that were recruited earlier on got sour over that. Anyway, um, let me see here. We're on Luke 21, and I'm pretty sure I've shared that already. Yeah. Okay. Now this one kind of reemphasizes some things mentioned in Mark and also in Matthew, of course, but just a different perspective. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to go ahead and start here. It's verse 7. They asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye not be deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be ye not terrified, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall be from the heaven. But so again, like the conjunctions and things like that. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn you for a testimony. And it shall turn to you for a testimony, rather. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. I mean, we see how they're acting with the masks and stuff already, you know,
Right.
like it doesn't really seem that far-fetched
No, it does
at
not.
this point. But there shall not an hair on your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know, see, this is a little bit extra here, and then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. See, a little extra clue there we didn't get in the last one. So we're going to see armies encircling not Israel, because see, if it had said Israel, we'd even think, okay, you're against us even. Well, no, this is saying Jerusalem. So we're going to see armies surrounding Jerusalem at some point, right? Remember what Q said. Who's last?
Israel.
Interesting. So yeah, I'd say the plan, whatever it is, it's still unfolding. Okay. And then we go on here to verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Sorry I stumble so much. It's just that I want to read it correctly.
Right, and you're reading a version that's not an easy read, so we understand.
Myself a lot. All right. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them which give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Remember again, when it was talking about the dominions, this is talking about that time. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is nigh at hand. And remember, there's multiple fig harvests too, as late as October even. So again, about the 3, 6th, 9th, and 11th hours, just another reference there. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall not pass away, but my words shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that the day come upon you unawares. In other words, don't be consumed with your job. Don't be consumed with, whatever. When you see these signs and you see the season, it's like, all right, future plans need to be put on hold. We should be paying attention to this. In other words, don't be caught unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple for to hear him. So he was going out into the mountains basically every night. He was tabernacling. That's what it sounds like.
That's right.
And see, this olives, you get oil from the olives too. And so, there's a lot of alchemical references to what he's doing. All right.
Ben's has another image he wants me to show you, so hang on just a second.
You're using Skype, right?
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you on Skype. It looks pretty involved, so here you go.
I'll try to look at it real quick. Let's see if I can get it zoomed. Oh, yeah. So he's talking about Daniel's 70 weeks. So you guys study Daniel a lot, and so this is really going to help to explain some things here. Oh, yeah, look at that. Wonderful. Okay, so this is saying it's in the future, though.
Can you pull it up for all of us to see?
Oh, it's not showing you. All right, hold on a second. I didn't realize I had to switch windows. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I clicked the share button. There it goes. Okay, Skype. 1. Maybe that's it. Okay, let's see if this works. And then I'll have to toggle it back off to the other one. Okay, is it showing Skype now?
Yep.
All right, cool. Now can it be seen?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. It was blurry at first, but now it's good.
Cool. All right, so it's saying here.
You're supposed to look at January 23rd, Ben says. I'm sorry, I'm just going by what he tells me.
It's cool, man. I mean, I haven't looked this far yet. January 23rd, 2021, Shavuot 10, 11th day, 10th month. Oh, Shavat. I'm sorry. That's not Shavuot. So this is the 10th month. So this is right before Adar. So this would be right before what took place with Esther, if you recall from last week.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just preceding that. Okay, this is so strange. I like how this stuff comes together. Okay, Genesis 8:5, 10th month, first day, the tops of the mountains were seen. So it's talking about the flood. Okay, I see. Well, this is interesting. I like how this lines up. But I'm inclined, however, to believe that the 70 years was actually fulfilled 2018. And so I think they're using a different calendar for this calculation is what it is. This must be using the Enochian calendar. Is that correct? That might be why the dates are different. Because, see, this is like a difference of a few years even. So, in other words, if you go by the 70th anniversary being in 2018, then we're already, past that. And basically, it'd be almost like 3.5 years into the tribulation marker in some case. So I could say either way, we're at the door. That's for sure. I could definitely agree it's the season. But that's the thing. The day is tricky because the calendar has been manipulated.
And there's so many calendars. Ben says that it was 2018 for Israel, and Lane says for Israel it was fulfilled this year. See, nobody can agree on any of this stuff, it looks like.
Yeah, I see. But either way, again, it doesn't even really matter because what we can say for sure is that it's the season. And that's what we're told to watch for is the season. Because being a laborer, you're going to know what's going on when you're out there in the field doing work, right? Let me figure out how to get this switched back off. I think I got it. There we go. All right. And there we go. Wonderful. I'm getting the hang of this. Okay.
Amen.
Okie dokie. Now, let me get that moved. raise that up. Okie dokie. All right, so can you see Ezekiel
Yep.
now?
We are there with you.
Thank you, Benz.
1951 with 5 exclamation points. What? You know what, Benz? You're just going to have this conversation with him later.
1951. So he's talking about.
He's really
okay.
adamant about
So it didn't start in
1951.
48. He's saying it started in 51. So that's explaining the difference in the years then, right? Is that what he's saying?
I don't know, because
I get
he's
it.
in the chat. So. Okay, but
it's
anyway.
definitely the tribulation. I mean, we can't. That's for sure.
Moving on to your planned schedule of the evening now.
Meow meow. So
Meow.
Ezekiel 33 is what I want to talk about next. Oh, I already dropped the link, but anyway, here it is again.
Fine. Double link us.
Now, the reason I'm reading this is because, because this just goes along with it. So again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the people, to the children of thy people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coasts and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people. Thanks again, Lane, for sharing this too. This was a really good one because it went along with what we were talking about. Then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. So again, if you're taking note of the season, right, that's the key to the salvational aspect of this. And we remember he's talking about the abomination of desolation also being something to watch for. And now that we've looked at, what was it, and I think it was Mark or Luke, he was talking about when the forces come against Jerusalem being another indicator for the abomination of desolation. Okay, and then we go here, but if the watchmen see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people are be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them from me. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die, if thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Nevertheless, if thou warn the wicked of his way and to turn from it, if he do not turn from his way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Therefore, O thou son of man, speak unto the house of Israel, thus ye speak, saying, if our transgressions and our sins be upon us, and we pine away in them, how should we live then? Say unto them, as I live, saith the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from this way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways, for why will ye die, O house of Israel? He wants everybody to come to him, to come out of her, my people, right? Babylon's the Jezebel character that's trying to usurp the vineyard that is the Garden of Eden, as it were, right? That's why we're reading all these things, because they kind of have overlapping themes. Therefore, thou son of man, saith unto the children of thy people, the righteousness of the righteous shall not deliver him in the day of his transgression. As for the wickedness of the wicked, he shall not fall thereby in the day that he turneth from his wickedness. Neither shall the righteous be able to live for his righteousness in the day that he sinneth. Verse 13, when I shall say to the righteous, that he shall surely live. If he trust in his own righteousness and commit iniquity, all his righteousnesses shall be remembered. But for his iniquity that he hath committed, he shall die for it, for the wages of sin are death. Again, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, if he turn from his sin and do that which is lawful and right, if the wicked restore the pledge, give again that he had robbed, walked in the statutes of life without committing iniquity, he shall surely live, he shall not die. None of his sins that he hath committed shall be mentioned unto him. He hath done that which is lawful and right, he shall surely live. Yet the children of thy people say, the word of the Lord is not equal, but as for them, their way is not equal. When the righteous turneth from his righteousness and committeth iniquity, he shall even die thereby. But if the wicked turn from his wickedness and do what is lawful and right, he shall live thereby. See how the law is so complicated and how grace just does away with all that. All right, hold on. Let's get down here to this abomination part. Ye stand upon your sword, ye work abomination, and ye defile every one of his neighbor's wife, and shall ye possess the land. Again, this Jezebel reference, okay, about taking the vineyard and the seed. In some cases, they would take a wife, right, because they have the inheritance and things like that. So that's what I wanted to highlight here. And because we're talking about Jezebel so much, I wanted to touch on this Elijah thing here.
Okay, real quick, Ben's
rush,
really wants me to tell you.
Ben's
really wants me to tell you. If I don't tell you, he might come through the chat, hit me. Just kidding. He said Jerusalem was declared a holy city by Israel in January 23rd, 1951, and January 23rd, 2020 completes the 70th year.
Well, but Jerusalem was always a city. Israel is the parable of the fig. Okay. I mean,
so we're talking the difference between all of Israel versus Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem's a city-state, essentially. A holy city-state, like the Vatican, technically speaking. So that's why I think they're tied in with the Rothschilds to begin with, is because really they planted the seed there and it grew from there. So that's kind of how I see it, as the parable of the fig, because 48, 51, either way, they planted the seed and it's now grown to what we see as it is today. Irregardless.
Oh, is that a word?
Still.
Sorry.
Irregardless?
Yeah.
Is it?
I think it's just
Maybe it's not a word.
Just regardless. Just drop the ear. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Still yet. How about that? Again, it's the season that we're in that we should be paying attention to. So, and the Ruach shakes the fig, which is the nation of Israel. So, I guess if just wait and watch for, the military surrounding Jerusalem, and the desolation of Damascus is another thing to watch for, and that's Isaiah 17. I mean, I don't want to see that happen, of course, but that's something that has to be fulfilled. So I'd say that'll have a lot to do with why they show up at Jerusalem's doorstep. They'll probably wipe out Damascus, and then, that'll cause a lot of problems, I'm sure. Anyway.
Okay, back to what you were, I
wanted to read a little bit about Elijah real quick. He deals quite a blow here to the. Did I? Yeah, I already shared it. Okay, I shared this.
You did share.
And so we're reading here in 1 Kings 19, and Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and with all how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as thy the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. In other words, I think she's saying that she wants to kill him. And when he
Yes.
saw that, he he arose and went for his life and came to Beersheba, and which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. And but he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He tabernacled and came and sat down under a juniper tree and requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under the juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baking on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And I wouldn't have been able to sleep after that, personally. But and the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched him and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights into Horeb, the mount of God. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, Where dost thou hear, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant. Again, the key here is the covenant. Thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, the ruach, like in Revelation 6:13, and break in pieces the rocks before the Lord, just like the rod of iron that will be shaking the trees. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, Where dost thou hear, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when thou comest, anoint Hazazel to be king over Syria. I'm not familiar with that guy. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, shalt thou anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, and Abel Malah shalt thou appoint to be prophet in thy room. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazazel shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him. That's interesting. So it's kind of like the Jezebel spirit that we're kind of talking about right here. So he departed thence and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him. And he went with the 12th, and Elijah passed by him and cast his mantle upon him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah, and said, Let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto him, Go back again, for what have I done to thee? And he returned back from him, and took a yoke of oxen, and slew them, and boiled their flesh with the instruments of the oxen and gave unto the people, and they did eat. Then he arose and went after Elijah and ministered unto him. So he actually had the luxury of saying goodbye, it seems like, whereas we're told that when the abomination of desolation occurs, though not even really supposed to be doing that. Is that the way you interpret it? He did get to say goodbye?
Me?
So it sounds like. Yeah, I think it sounds like he did. It's like, hey, I need to say goodbye to my parents, and then they sacrificed an ox. So, all right.
Well,
So he
that'd
didn't
be
just blow up.
nice. That'd be the more pleasant way to do things. I mean, not the sacrifice, but the saying goodbye.
Okay. And so I didn't need to read that, but I did want to read Corinthians. I was just referencing the double portion thing here. Because the whore of Babylon is this Jezebel spirit, as it were, usurping the vineyard and then getting her double portion. So thinks that's what she deserves. Okay, well, we'll give you that. And Corinthians here, let's drop that link. How much time do I have? I'm trying not to be rushed, but
how much time do you need?
oh, I don't know. I just wanted to get through the last couple things here.
You have time.
Okay,
you
cool.
Got time.
Because this is the good stuff, so I'll try to slow down a little bit. Milk stuff, and all that.
You got time.
So First Corinthians 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, as it says in Matthew 21, and I have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods and feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. I kind of see this as the distinction sometimes with the milk and the meat, and with the woe unto those with child that suck and things like that. From now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. So again, charity is that faith and action component. Having the belief, yes, but also teaching the gospel, leading people to Christ and to the Father, and then getting to know them. So that's why I wanted to share these things again, because at the end of the day, this is what matters. We got to have charity living in our heart. These virtues that are embodied by Christ and the Father, these are the fruits that He's looking for in us. So when He comes to inspect us, what kind of fruit do you got here? Well, these are the kind of fruits you'd want to be proud of, is charity. I've heard some commentary on the Quran, for instance. They talk about when people do good deeds or whatever, it was kind of a talk similar to the armor, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. they said that when you would do charity, that it like marked you up to a week. Like of all the things you could do, charity was the one that gave you the most protection, as it were, right?
Right.
Because you're actually doing God's work,
Yes.
literally.
Yep.
So you can't really be bothered, So ideally, you should just be carrying on, preaching the gospel, sharing the word, but most importantly, doing acts of charity. Because in those moments when we're doing charity, that's when we're also kind of being a silent witness, an ambassador for our God. And I think that's why it was very important when in Joshua, when he was told not to speak the law, but only to just keep it. So that if we just learn all the different laws and want to keep them because we love God, not to brag or to say, oh, you're not keeping this law or whatever. Well, it's not about that.
Right.
You just want to be pleasing to God and bear good fruit. That's why you should keep the laws, right? But what he's really looking for is this charity component, because that's how you're going to lead people to Christ, is by being a good person.
You'll know them by their
You know?
fruits. Yeah, by
Yeah.
not getting angry at their mass, not treating them like they're worthless because they're not thinking like you. And it's hard. But while it's hard, it's like that's what I remind myself whenever I go out anywhere is just love people. Just love them. Just love them.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, we know people are stupid by and large in the first place, so you can't expect much with this
Right.
whole situation, It really is amounting to an IQ test in a lot of ways. Because it's like, even if it's, I get it, the virus is probably real, right? I get that, but it's like it's not lethal enough to be killing the economy, because now nobody can survive. So yeah, it's hard. That's why I just took the mask I have to wear when I do have to put it on. I keep one in my pocket. I just wrote 666 on it, so that every time I have to put it on, I want the person that's making me put it on to see that,
Right.
what they're asking me to do. And so it's just a way to witness. It's not soft, but I don't feel like we have a lot of time to be soft.
Right.
So
I don't
people
either.
need to feel the sting. I'm not gonna wear a Pokemon mask or some like theme.
I know,
My
or
mask is
some
themed
football,
apocalypse
some
themed.
football team or something.
Yes, I like the apocalypse theme mask.
Oh,
So I actually talked to the local shirt printing place, and I'm gonna start getting T-shirts and stuff made.
cool.
So I'm not
Ooh,
sure if that's
merch.
something we could ever
Merch.
do,
Yeah.
but I think we should.
Let's do some
I mean,
merch.
wearing T-shirts is the easiest way to be getting the message out about stuff like this, especially Revelation 13:16, for instance. He causeth all, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, ought to have a mark on the right hand or the forehead. And as we've studied before with the Tefillin, for instance, we know, like, hey, that's where God's law is supposed to be, So if we don't keep God's laws in our head and want to keep them, we shouldn't be speaking them, but we should keep them in our head, right? That's what's going to get us through this,
Right.
this kind of thing. So speaking of which, I wanted to talk about the armor of God, and this is again in Ephesians 6. I know it's somewhat cliche, but I want to talk about this in a way that maybe isn't so cliche after I've read it.
Okay.
Okay, so I've showed the picture before, where it was like the circle with the 7 virtues of God, had like power, blessings, glory, etc. Had all those different aspects, and the gifts of the Spirit kind of fruit on that same tree, right? And so we've seen, like, maybe you've seen the pictures of the tree of life and then the tree of death that goes below. Well, so your tree of death is what presides over this material world, and so the fear and the panic and the pride, and all those negative emotions, those are all fruits just the same, but they fruit on the Quillapoth, the tree of death. And so the archons, or whatever you want to call them, the spirits, the devils, those folks can feed on that negative energy. They eat that fruit. So when we embody those virtues, I'm just going to say virtues because, like, the spiritual substance, whatever you want to call it. A negative virtue is like one of those things, like fear, panic, anger, etc. And so, like it was talking about in Corinthians, everything it's telling us to do here is in direct opposition to that. And so this would represent the tree of life. So charity, really, in a sense, mercy and salvation is like the highest form of charity God's given to us, in a sense. So anyway, I wanted to get on to the armor of God here. So when we talk about these pieces of armor, kind of think about how these relate to virtues that we should also be embodying, because if we do this, then we're the armor of God that we're cladding ourselves with is actually think of it as like an emotional frequency armor kind of thing, like before you go out into public and have to deal with all these people, and try to anticipate what kind of shenanigans might I be able, might put up with. Because if you mentally prepare yourself, maybe you'll be able to, withstand said dart, right?
Right.
Serenity meow. So we'll get into the Ephesians 6 here. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye might be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We showed last week, I think, the different categories of angels, and one of them is dominions. One of them is powers. All the angels have different abilities, and so good and bad both. They're in those different rankings.
Yes.
And then in Matthew 21, it talks about how we can move mountains with the seed of faith. And that's the thing. That's the last thing they want, is for people to be hearing the gospel, for people to be embodying these virtues of the Holy Spirit and bearing these fruits, because that drives them out. They can't stand before it.
That's right.
And it's a secret, because it doesn't seem like it should make sense, right?
Right.
Might is right? But it's actually not. And that's the biggest secret, is that spiritually they have no authority.
That's right.
It's usurpation by getting us to believe that we don't have the birthright in the first place, or to just keep us from waking up, quote unquote, because that's what the blind men requested from Jesus. Just help us see.
Yes.
I get a little passionate.
I like it.
Back on track here. All right. So, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt with the truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication of the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So here he's talking about your feet being shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Well, if you're a laborer in the vineyard, God, where do I need to go? Take me where I need to be. Guide my path, direct me. You learn your loins. This is where your fruit comes from, right? So let my fruit be that of truth, right? Breastplate of righteousness. This is over our heart. Is our heart set on the right intent? Are we, I'm trying to relate these things back to emotive qualities, by the way. What's our heart set on? Again, David he was after God's own heart, right? That's why he loved him so much. And so the shield of faith, it's using this quench here, Jesus says that he is the water of life, right? And if you want to be like him, drink from his mouth. So the shield of faith could quench fiery darts of the wicked. And in fact, we see here that the word of God is our sword of the Spirit. This is the script, folks. We can't, look, it's even saying, it's verse 17 even. Trust the plan, right? So it's the script God is really a playwright. When you think about it, the world is a stage and we are vessels. He really has absolute control of everything that's going on. And so, I find that, it might be a spoiler if you go ahead and read the end, but if you do, you don't have to be so worried, because that's the thing. His word cannot be changed. And see, the adversary, the persecuting spirits, the prosecuting spirits, they use the law to bring death, right? But that's where God's showing the power of his word. He's like, all right, if you guys are going to try and do this, using my own word against me, trying to kill my son, etc., I'm going to send him down there. And because of John 3:16, which is another one of my words, we're going to say, now this is the way to get out of all that. Now you got to pass. Now your defense attorney you got to pass. You can't be tried, right? It's an acquittal of sorts. So this just to show that in what was it? I think it was another passage in Ezekiel, Valley of Dry Bones, perhaps, was, he was telling him, he's like, prophesying to the bones. He's like, but Lord, they're a bunch of dry bones.
Right.
And the point he was trying to make was, he's saying, because I spoke it, it shall be. Right. This is how Moses was able to part the Red Sea also, and this is the only reason that they were ever let out of captivity to begin with, is just to prove he was God. And so all these things that have been done in the past were to exalt the name of Yahweh, and to prove he was God, he'd done all these remarkable things. So we have to remember that, if things were just simple and easy, people would continue to forget about God, right?
Yeah.
So he has to remind people that he is God.
Right.
But part of that is not only the destruction, but the salvation he gives into his faithful. That also proves he is God. He's protecting those lambs amongst all those lions and wolves. So I wanted to, say that's when we're praying always with supplication and spirit. We got to be thinking in terms of spirit and these emotive qualities. We got to be thinking beyond the five senses here. Faith is something Hebrews 11 says, it is the substance of that which is hoped for. It is the evidence of the unseen. We can't see it or perceive it. Faith is something that lives outside of us, but it is the fruit that God wants. That and charity, of course. So I think it's very important to embody these things and to think of this armor as something you're actually putting on. I'm going to wear this virtue. I'm going to practice this virtue,
Well, I'd like to respond to that I pray this with my kids every day, pretty much. And if I forget to pray with them, I pray it over them and over myself, because I do like to think of it like you said. Where the belt of truth is girding our loins with the truth, that is the first and most important thing you could do. And for me, it's the shoes of the gospel of peace because I haven't been at peace in my heart with the mask and getting mad at everybody. But of course, putting on that full armor, and my kids and I, we do it really fun because, it tickles them because I pretend I'm actually putting it on them. And so they know it so well. I mean, they could recite it and other scriptures, which is so cool. I didn't grow up that way. But I end it with, so that we can go out to battle, because that's what we're about to do. We're going to go out to battle in this day, but with the Lord Jesus at our side. And if you look at Psalm 23, the angels of goodness and mercy at our back, following us all the days of our lives. And that's how I end that prayer, is I include that Jesus is at our side and the angels of goodness and mercy are at our back. Because a lot of people are like, well, what's on your back? Is like, well, Jesus has your back. And I'm like, no, I think that the angels have our back and Jesus at our side. So anyway, that's how we pray it.
Well, and that's the thing. I was talking to somebody about this recently. Cursing, a cuss word. I don't think cuss words are even what you should be worried about. It's whether or not we're cutting one another down and cursing one another.
I think so too.
When we got angels and demons sitting around us at all times, and they're just waiting for you to give them a job. You start talking bad about somebody, well, you probably just sick the demon after them without realizing it.
That is exactly why I stopped cursing, because I didn't want to curse somebody. So
it's not even the cuss words. That's probably insignificant, other than maybe how somebody thinks or perceives you when you say it. It's what you're saying about, harmful. Are you cutting people with your words? That's, I think, what the cursing really means. Because by the same token, what's it mean to bless somebody then, right? So you send angels to help somebody, you're blessing them. You send some angels after somebody to curse them, then that's obviously bad. But so whatever we say, though, is happening. So it helps me to be measured with my speech. We should be using that mouth as a gift, and it's a gate. A two-edged sword is the tongue, right? Itself can cut both ways, too.
And the Bible says that we will be responsible for everything we've ever said.
Yeah, every idle word. And that goes through my mind constantly when I'm just talking to like a friend with some idle chatter, and I'm like, man, I really don't like having to talk so much, just idly. It makes you really, it's good to think about. Our words have a lot of power, That's why I wish we could almost just telepathic and talk that way more, to reserve our words for when we're needed. Okay, so I wanted to read a little bit here to finish things off. Again, trying to finish things on positive notes, or so I'm not so gloom and doom all the time. And since this was more of a review also, I'm reminding people of some things that we maybe talked about in the past. So I'm going to go from chapter 5 here to 11, verse 11. So again, this is 1 Peter 5. And again, this is to remind everybody, no matter where you're at, if you're alone listening to this, we're all suffering together. So that's why we're reading this one. The elders which are among you, I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of ready mind. In other words, don't be one of those guys grouching that you've been out there all day long working, right? And somebody else got the same pay as you to come at the 11th hour. No, take joy that you're being out there feeding the flock in the first place. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock, right? Not an idle shepherd. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. A Stephanos, right? Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For God resisteth resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that in the same afflictions are accompanied in your brethren that are in the world. But the God of all grace, who hath called us into his eternal glory by Jesus Christ, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, stablish, strengthen, and settle you. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. That's why I wanted to end it there.
Yes, that was so
Again,
good. Dominion.
with this, yes. And then a glory is one of those 7 aspects, of course. We always give glory to the Most High. That's not one we're supposed to necessarily embody, but give it to Him. But yes, this is some good stuff. And this is the one here that I was really wanting to focus on is, the adversary is ha-satan, is what the adversary means. And, the lions have a scent gland in the top of their mouth to scent whether or not the cub is theirs, right? Whether the fruit of their loins or another. So if we're telling truth from our loins, right, then the adversary, the devil's not going to like the scent we're giving off. If we were spreading lies, he would be fine with that, right? So remember, fruit of the loins. It's stay chaste in that regard, and don't be found in bed with Jezebel, as it were. But yeah, that covers all the things I had tonight. So I really appreciate you letting me take the time to read those.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on an hour early. I appreciate that. And we have
Yeah, no
plenty, like
problem.
that's why I said we have plenty of time because we're a whole hour early.
So that was the recap from some things that we studied before, and so then, like next week, I would like to be talking about the menorah and the other vestments in the temple, and how this relates again to the dedication and the different covenants, and Hanukkah, of course, also, because we're in the time of death. Essentially, it's the opposite of Shavuot, so which is the Pentecost, the Spirit. So
when we're getting close
to
the date with Gary Wayne on the 18th, which is a week before Christmas.
Yeah, that's why I really wanted to do the tabernacling and Hanukkah feast days, all that stuff. I kind of wanted to do like an end of the year wrap up deal, and as we're getting toward that date, because a lot of the stuff I'm learning for the first time. And I remember when I first started learning about the feast days, I didn't even think Hanukkah was a big deal. And then as I began to learn more about it, I was like, oh, wow, that's so relevant to what we're going through right now because of all the references to winter and things like that.
Right.
What happened to these folks in the winter time. And, so what they did, what the Maccabees did was very similar to what Elijah did. They were so offended by what they saw, they slew the Roman priests right there in the temple and then flew to the hills. What did Elijah do? He killed all those priests, and the dogs tore her to pieces, and then he ran to the hills. So we see that this reoccurring theme, right? Not that we're going to have to do anything violent like that, but at the same time, by not participating, you're marked as a adversary because the lion can smell that on you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So meow meow.
Meow.
uh, the Lion of Judah is alpha male, of course. Satan's the beta in this case.
So then next week we'll start following up with more information on Hanukkah, which will be leading into the quote-unquote Christmas season. And it's okay that we can practice the feasts, not the pagan holidays. And we, in my house, will not be putting up a tree or a wreath or any of those things. And in fact, I told my kids, which they loved. This is how one of the ways I don't have to bribe my kids, because I told them last year. I said this is the last year we're doing the tree, because that was when I was coming around to the understanding.
Amen.
But I said this year, I said, well, let's get a hotel room and have Christmas in a hotel room, and we'll wake up and we'll get to open our presents there. And last year, we'll do this year too. We pray before we open them. They each get one really good present. They don't get a whole pile of presents. And I said then we'll stay in the hotel that night too. And since we don't decorate, we can celebrate it anywhere we want to.
But I just encourage everybody to have a bug out bag kind of put together too, I know it's a heavy thing to mention, but
no, of course
really
it's not.
Water, provisions, they say like 3 days for basics, but I honestly would go try to gear it up for more like a month or something like that. But
maybe a bug out area.
Yeah, that's true too, but I think it's just more important to have something that you can grab and go. Like if you were in the house and you're like, okay, I gotta go, just something you could grab. I've been using like totes, and got some bags and stuff like that, getting packed and organized. And I got some ham radios recently too, so don't forget about ham radios. If the cell phones and everything go down, you'll still be able to use your ham. And I don't think you're going to necessarily need to worry about the FCC bothering you in that case.
I think it's also good to consider how to bug in as well. There's 2 options for every situation, and some people will be needing or wanting to bug in, and some people will be needing or wanting to bug out.
I think bugging in is just kind of should be like your normal everyday attitude anyway. Like you should have a well-stocked house as it is. And then but also have something that you can grab and go with, because that's where usually a lot of people aren't as prepared, I think. And you're never going to be totally prepared. I mean, you can't carry the house on your back. So, just try to be practical and cover like shelter, fire, water, food,
And luckily I have a friend who's setting up solar panels on his shop for in case the grid goes down, to be able to help friends like me or his family or things like that. And we're planning that together in a way. So while I don't have to put any money into it, I get to be a part of that group of people that will have a shelter with the bug out kind of plan, but with shelter with solar energy and be able to be off grid and all that. What's being put together all together now. So other than that, I plan to build my off-grid bus starting in the spring. I'm going to buy a bus.
There's a bus for sale down the street for like $3,000.
Yep.
I thought about buying it.
That's about the going rate that I see for some really good buses. So I wouldn't pay much more than that.
Yeah, because then I could everything I own could fit in it.
That's right.
And I would just go.
That's what I've been watching plenty of videos on building your bus, and you can make it as fancy or as simple as you want, but I'm serious about it, that I'm going to buy a bus and that's what we're going to live in. But of course, because it's winter and I don't have storage or a shop to work on something so big, it's going to be my spring project, and that is the plan.
Yeah, but I hate to alarm people, but don't forget, getting some seeds and things like that,
Yes.
MREs, think about food that you could eat on the spot.
Yes.
Food that you might have to prepare because water might become an issue,
Right.
Things like that.
Which is why learning how to handle like the self-sufficiency of the bus is learning how to turn your gray water into, pure water, learning how to collect rainwater, those kind of things. So this is called this is off-grid means off-grid. Off-grid means total self-sufficiency. Yep. And if you can do that, which is what we were created to be able to do, we all can, then we're going to be fine. And we can come together and help each other if it really gets that serious. That's why we talk about cities of refuge. Benz and I have talked about that. I've mentioned it with you. We may not build a city, but it is mentioned of cities of refuge in the Bible, and we'll be able to go where we can help each other and be protected from many things. I truly believe that that is something that the Lord will do for
Well,
us as a
I
remnant.
think so too, because Lot, I mean, there's been a few stories where, one righteous person was what kept a city from being destroyed, and it wasn't until he left that everything got completely annihilated. So, again, it's a job interview basically for heaven. When we're down here, it's like, well, if we're doing the charity and doing his work, and if you're in a community where everybody's doing that, well, I can imagine, yeah, you probably would have pretty good odds of being protected, because we really are
Hmm.
dealing with spirits here. Like there's an entire reality of this that we have to pay attention to. And it says that everything will be shortened. Wasn't it right here? And, that those days will be shortened lest the elect be completely destroyed. I don't know where it was exactly now, but yeah. So I mean, that's the whole point, that the giants, Jezebel wants to destroy all of the seed because they want to take the birthright. Gary mentioned this too the last time he was on. So they're trying to use the law to get their way. And so this was what I'm just trying to basically understand with Esther is, I think we're going to see that table thing flipped in such a
Hmm.
way that Yahweh is going to do his thing that he's famous for. Just to show, hey, I'm God, by the way. Name's
Yep.
Yahweh.
And I pray for more time, like it or not. All the people that are like, I can't wait for the Lord to return, and I feel that He's coming any minute. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to pray for more time. Sorry. Hope you don't mind, but that's what I'm praying for.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we should hope he tarries. And that makes me laugh a little bit too inside, because, the Lord, or Jesus rode in on a donkey, right?
Hmm.
And that could be part of the reason why maybe it's taken so long, right? It's because donkeys are slow, and they maybe won't move at all for a while, and then like maybe they run real fast. So we don't really know what kind of pace we're working with here.
We don't. He's long suffering.
But that's the thing. If we're here doing the work, if there's laborers out here working, I really think he would wait till the absolute last minute.
Of course he
He's a
would.
procrastinator.
And if there's still souls to be saved, He's going to wait.
Yep. So I think it's again, try to have those red and blue pills, as it were, ready. That's kind of why I wanted to cover some of these parables and stuff tonight, because if you can just pull up some of these things, if you got an opportunity to sit with somebody, I think Matthew 20 is probably one of the best things to share with people, because then you can read that and really get something out of it, I think. And you don't have to really understand a lot of things. You can just read it and get it, I think. So this would be one to really share with people, I think. But that's why I try to focus on the parables, because I think that they're really good for sharing. But yeah, I don't have anything else to share, but just keep your guys' eyes and ears peeled for this Operation Warp Speed language. Tuesday is the day they're going to be voting on the right here, voting on the who gets it first. And the distinction they had, what was it, 1A? Is that what they were calling it?
Yeah, whatever that group is.
Yeah, it should be in the
Which
1A.
is like the elderly, right? Probably.
Well, the people that are healthcare workers around
Oh,
people that
healthcare
are
workers.
high
Oh,
risk.
yikes. Okay.
Draft recommendations have suggested that healthcare workers should be in the 1A vaccine allocation group. Basically, your essential workers is what this is talking about.
Essential.
So, I know it says about the forces surrounding Jerusalem. So as a geographic clue, that kind of is their abomination and desolation thing. But I kind of see this also as like abomination and desolation. They're arraying the forces against people because they're starting with the essential workers. Well, if we're the temple's in Jerusalem. Well, was in Jerusalem also, like we were talking about here in Mark. So, I think this is kind of like when the forces are arrayed around the city, if you will. They're really threatening us already, in a sense, talking about what they're going to do.
Doc Michael says the healthcare workers get the good stuff before they dose the rest of the population with something else, question mark. But I would say not necessarily, because one of the things that COVID is going to help push is the telemetry medical session that they really want. I mean, if we look at Trump in his AI legacy of the video that I made, and his desire is to have us, or they're all under the same control. So Trump, Biden, any of them, their desire is to catch up to China with their 5G telemetry type of stuff in their social credit scores, so that we'll be seeing doctors by telemetry. We'll be having appointments from home and not actually having physical one-on-one visits. And so this will help if we can get those nurses and doctors out of the way. They'll probably get dosed with something horrible. That's what I think.
Well, I can see the point they're making by saying that because, it would be a good way to get some credibility, right? All these essential workers are fine because they're wanting to make them the model citizens, right? Follow their lead. Well, these are idle shepherds, in my opinion. If you take that vaccine as a essential worker / role model, then you're an idle shepherd. You're leading them astray. And that's what's so crazy is I hear people. I just try to pay attention to conversations that are going around me sometimes, and there were some people giving some folks a really hard time today. They're like, "There's a convenience store down the road. None of them wear masks, and ha ha ha, the health department's shutting them down tomorrow." I'm thinking, why are you taking pleasure in somebody getting their business shut down because they won't wear masks? Like, what kind of a world are we living in? Like, it's just crazy. So, and here I'm thinking like, well, who is it? I'm going to go shop there now. Sorry, I get a little off topic, but
yeah. Well, somebody said
like
that
you're
the
living in the
doctors.
Twilight Zone, man.
Somebody said that doctors won't get the vaccines, and as a healthcare provider, I was not required. Nurses are required, military is required, CNAs, LPNs, all that jazz are required, but I was not required to get vaccinations when I was working as a
Well,
PA.
you see the world leaders they're not even taking the cap off.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there and like going through the motions, and they're not even actually inoculating them. So I would say that whatever's in that crap, they know what's in it, and they're not taking it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that guy, he wouldn't drink the fracking water or whatever.
Right.
Or well, he acted like he was, but it was probably not. It's like, yeah, you guys know what's in that. And they, of course, a lot of the famous folks say they're not vaccinating their children or whatever. Well, there's a good reason for that. Same reason they don't let them on the cell phones and stuff. But what a point I would make is that they're not using there's no virus in the vaccine.
Right.
So that could maybe be a clue as to that there's no virus. I mean, it would be genius.
I think there is no virus.
It would be a genius way to pull it all off. Oh, we got a new method. We don't need the virus. Well, okay, that makes sense. If there's no virus, you wouldn't need it to make a vaccine, would you?
Hence utopia.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing also, like there may not be any immediate side effects, so to speak, so everybody might be otherwise fine. Well, remember in the show, they didn't actually cure the virus. It had nothing to do with that. Like that, not only did they not cure the flu, but then the vaccine had nothing to do with it, and it actually just sterilized people.
Yeah.
So,
there's no guarantee here that they're really trying to do what they're saying. And that's another thing to make mention of is that in that show, it was a two-stage vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an amino acid that was considered harmless, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when it was combined with a certain protein, I think, is when it became lethal. And
Which is why
so
they
yeah,
want
I
you to
mean,
get 2 shots. That's why they have boosters.
so we may not see anything really happen until the second round starts. Then I'd imagine we'll probably start seeing some crazy stuff then. But that'll be your real canary in the coal mine will be the second round, I imagine. But just some food for thought. I have heard Bill Gates talking about the impending threat of biological terrorism. Thinking, why are you talking about this, Bao? You planning on doing it? So, if it goes anything like Event 201 did, it seems like they're going to try to maybe do something. And I think the way the Dark Winter talk's going, it sounds like to me it'll probably be some type of an attack on the energy grid during the winter, during the pandemic. And of course, that'll just justify ratcheting down everything further, et
Which
cetera, et
is
cetera.
how they'll make lockdowns in the future be because of global warming, climate change. They'll say, well, we have to lock down because you can't use your energy all day long, can't use your electricity this much, can't go driving, we don't have enough
Oh
resources.
yeah, that's a good point too. I didn't think about that. Justify those
Yeah,
the smart grid
different lockdowns in the future that have nothing to do with the virus, but just everything to.
rolling brownouts.
Yep, that's right.
Just like turning your electricity off
Yeah,
half of the day.
right.
Oh yeah, man, I tell you, it's a thing. So the mark of the beast really is just this going to be this carrot you can never have, this new normal,
Hmm.
at the cost of a vaccine schedule and so on and so
But
forth.
then
So
but then you start to have lockdowns for your electricity. So yeah, it's like it's never going to go back to normal. But they think, oh, I'll get this vaccine and it'll be fine. Oh no, now they're making me lock down for my fossil fuels usage.
yeah, and they're even talking about 6G at this point, Aaron.
They have been. They have
So
been.
like it,
And,
it's never ending.
oh yeah, we could go on forever. So, do you want to sing any songs tonight to praise the Lord?
Well, that's kind of why I ended with this because that was my prayer essentially.
Okay.
I just didn't say it eloquently. I'm sorry. I should have kind of prefaced that. But but yes, I'm just like when I'm praying, I think about these virtues and asking that I be able to bear good fruit. And when I ask for the Lord to bless my food, that I can be able to do His will, that He make my vessel strong, and He keep me aware of opportunities to serve Him. Um, so I just ask for the ability to share my gifts and then to bear good fruit in His name and to do His will.
Praise
So
the
I know that
Lord.
doesn't sound like I didn't use the tone of a prayer, but those are the things I pray for when I pray. And
Hmm.
I'm very thankful for this community too. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Yes, we
And
are grateful to this community, and I'm especially grateful to the Discord where we still come together outside of YouTube, Facebook, any of that. While it still lasts, I'm so grateful for it.
so yeah, I mean, I do pray a lot. I'm sorry, I just don't like to do it on the live stream. It
Yeah.
just makes me feel awkward sometimes. But when I get the song, I'm working on a hymn right now with a friend.
Cool.
And so I'll be bringing some stuff eventually. Maybe that'll come in time for the Hanukkah episodes and stuff. Might
Then
might be a festive time to
maybe we
sing.
can do a
Actually,
maybe
didn't
we
even
can do
think
a
about that.
freestyle with Kevon sometime.
I'll do the best I can to come up with a few things because I do like to pray. It's just something I do more privately.
All right. Well, I'll end it with a song with from Destiny Lab, and they can sing out our praise for us. So
Meow
so
meow.
thanks.
Praise Yahweh.
Thanks for the time that you spend on this. Thanks for the work that you do for this. And thanks for coming on every Friday and making a sacrifice of your time. Appreciate it.
It's cool, man.
All right. Well, with that, I'll say goodnight to you and I'll play a song.
Meow, meow. Farewell,
Meow.
folks.
Peace and love of the Lord. Good night.
The Bible predicts that there's coming a world peace. It will come. But listen, it will be a deceptive peace. It will be the most subtle and the most deceptive trap that's ever been set, because it'll catch the world in it, and they'll be caught and they'll be destroyed.
There's a lot of propaganda, nonsense in a sick sort of way, practically implanted all over the planet. We're seeing signs of the plans they've enacted, the ones they've infected, media connections, implanted messages with music, movies, they hit from all directions. Black evil masses is what they practice in the fast lane, selling the souls and abracadabras, witchcraft and magic, and new age counterfeits to truth, manufactured in their package, blasphemous reactions without remorse or regret to their thoughts or their actions. Spiritual affliction, receive the moral consequences. All these massive repercussions, a war of attrition. People plagued by infections, demons who torment and possess them. How do they select them? Through permissive meditations. Some give their bodies without questions, planned out deceptions. Many go ways to select from, maybe alien abductions or Ouija board connections, hypnotic or regression, spirit guide visitations or kundalini yoga lessons. Demons use these inventions, planting seeds of oppression. How can we know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation, wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know without a foundation? How can you know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation, wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know without a foundation?
Truth movement, where's the rage at? Top guys dealing out lies, it's a new age track. Caesarion Nike, Maxwell and Joseph looking to deceive. They're occultists and hopeless, we got no discernment. This research is hijacked, esoteric disinformation is behind that. I spit flows, exposing these fake wolves. New age Blavatsky clones, Christ warned of a new age one world government, twisting his message and their followers are loving it, drifting from salvation from sin and the solution. Christ became a new age sage, toxic pollution, dudes out to deceive you as peaceful watchmen. They want to mislead you with the secret doctrine, but I'ma preach Christ crucified. Take a stand for the man, they want to see Christ crucified, but that's not happening. Repent and believe, stop trafficking. This Aquarian trash again, total depravity. These wolves are in need of God's grace, don't be mad at me. Dose of reality, give the gospel. The movement needs it, they've all been scammed, all of them by the Gnostics. Can't you see it? Truth movement take over in full effect. Open your eyes to these lies and clean up the mess.
How can we know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation, wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know without a foundation? How can you know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation, wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know without a foundation?
Yo, from boys to men, from men to lords, from toys to pens, from pens to swords, womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave. Doom indeed loom, leave my fable in a cave. They worship Lucifer each night, priests of darkness that preach light. Trying to teach fright with speech trite, but I'm true grit like the first division on Omaha Beach fight. This worldly system's days are numbered, waiting I wander the wilderness until my ways are humbled. Behold a pale horse, study the hidden past, which apocalyptic horsemen's mounts ridden last. The political is the spiritual to the analytical. Think critical, remedy a knowledge basis that's pitiful. Or why would I ever respect your formation and stance when research is foreign to your nation and rants? Chasing slave labor's at the pace of the ants, never realizing at best all you're facing is chance. Your ignorance is bliss with the elation of trance. Look beneath the surface of your vision's foundation is glance. New age charming you with subtle application of chance. You puppets represent utter supplication to dance. What's burning in this furnace? Remove pride from your discernments. Reflections on self like the burnished. As for righteousness, to us all tools were furnished. Yet it seems the only ones who can have already learned this. Some sip a toxin that could kill 100 oxen. Adoption of false doctrine like they had no other option. Mankind was stabbed in the back by Satan's blade. Fools can't see, only God leaves legacies too great to fade. A rat race enslaved. You're lost and soon you'll be too late to save, and your ultimate fate's a grave.
How can we know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation. Wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know without a foundation? How can you know what's fact from the fiction? Caught in a world full of disinformation. Wolves in sheep's clothing, imitations. How will you know?